Hello and welcome. This is a crafting video to explain the most cost-efficient method to roll +2 gem scepters with a fractured base and also on an alternating scepter. This is sort of a medium budget version of these scepters, somewhere in the 8 to 12 divine range, depending on your RNG. Yeah, so let's get right into it. First thing you're going to need to craft a scepter like this and this are some bases. So this is an eye level 81 abyssal scepter. The eye level is important. This is an eye level 78 alternating scepter. Again, eye level is important. Really, you want anything below 82. So these are pretty cheap on trade. The other is an alternating scepter below eye level 82. You see it in here. I have item level 73 to 82. Alternating scepter, that's the only part that's important. These are pretty cheap, 8 chaos, 12 chaos, 20 chaos. Yeah, readily available. So how do we do this? First, I'm going to go over to the Craft of Exile emulator. It's really fantastic. I'm going to copy in, let's start with the alternating scepter. Take this, import it. Right there. So item level 78, fantastic. The first thing you're going to do is fossil craft, +1 all gems. So this is pretty straightforward. The reason that we're using eye level 82 is because it's the cheapest way to roll +1 all gems. If we look, there are fossils, one-handed scepter, eye level 82. You'll see that if we have +1 all gems, which is hiding from me currently, there we go. The fastest way to do this is with a 3-socket resonator using metallic, corroded, and shuddering fossils. These are pretty cheap. I think I bought 60 or 70 3-socket resonators for a divine. You can get corroded fossils for around 60 for a divine, and you can get metallic fossils for, I don't know, 1C or so. So 175 chaos, fairly inexpensive. If you really want to, you can use a 4-socket resonator. Like let's say you, for some reason, only have a higher eye level alternating scepter, but I think it makes sense to do it this way instead. So yeah, we're gonna hit it until we land +1 all gems. Melee. Socketed melee again. Really loves melee gems. There we go. So pretty much every time you hit +1 all gems, you're gonna also fill the mods, which is sort of annoying, but can be managed. So the way that you manage this is by taking it into the bestiary and using a split beast. So a split beast is sort of like a safe way to null off some of this trash. The hope is that you land all spell gems and socketed melee gems on different bases. Most of the time, this is pretty manageable, but if not, it's pretty cheap to re-roll this. So just do this until you have all spell skill gems on its own base. Yeah, so to sort of simulate that, I'm just going to remove it. Let's say we got lucky and we kept spell damage. You'll find that with this combination of fossils, you'll very frequently land spell damage as well. And then let's say we just get rid of one random suffix and we end up with a 4-mod scepter like this. The next thing you're going to do, actually to demo some of the rest of it, let's say we only get 3 mods. The next step is you want to fill, or not fill, but you want 2 prefixes naturally rolled, 2 naturally rolled suffixes, and a bench crafted cannot roll attack. So I've got 2 prefixes here, which is great. So what I'm going to do is go over to the bench and craft any prefix, doesn't really matter. This is so that when I exalt slam another suffix, it's guaranteed to give me a suffix. So I'm going to do that. I got attack speed, sure, whatever. And then I'm going to go over to suffixes and bench the meta mod cannot roll attack. There we go. So I've got 2 prefixes, 2 suffixes, and cannot roll attack. What I'm going to do next is aug Phys, which costs around 3.5 divine at the moment. It's an 80% chance of success. That feels way worth relative to the cost of doing this the full 100% deterministic way, which is to clean the suffixes, multi-mod, and then prefix cannot change, and then cannot roll attack, which costs 7 divine because you're going to need to protect the prefixes when you scour the suffixes, and then 5 divines for the mods. I rolled this +1 all skill gems for less than a divine. There's no reason to spend 7 to try and protect a roll that you have an 80% chance of successfully remove adding Phys on. So let's do add or remove Phys and hit it. And there we go. So we landed, we kept the tier 7 spell damage, which is pretty sweet. All Phys skill gems and all spell skill gems. So now we've got our prefixes done. We've spent roughly 4.5 divine to get to this point. And now we're going to unveil a suffix. So to do that, we're going to spend another 2 divine to craft prefixes cannot change. Okay, the next step is to unveil or hit this with the veiled chaos and then unveil something useful. So useful suffixes are double damage, crit multi when uniques are, so double damage, which is 18%, crit multi when a rare or unique is nearby, and the trigger craft. So what you're going to want to do is block these charge mods. They're the highest weighted pool and they're together. So you can remove 300 weight out of 1600. It makes this trigger spell around a 30%, and then double damage more like low 20s. Same with crit multi. So what I've done, what I did to craft mine is I would take any of those 3 on the alternating scepter, and then I would move to the other scepter and take the 2 that I missed. So hopefully one of the times we're unveiling these will hit a socketed trigger spells. Because if you absolutely have to hit trigger spells, it's sort of annoying to have to do a bunch of times. So we're gonna hit this with a veiled chaos, and then we're gonna bench one of the charge mods, which is right here, and then we're gonna unveil. And we got double damage while focused. None of these are great. I would probably redo this. So we're going to, again, prefixes cannot change. Spend another 2 div. Hit it with a veiled cast again. Once again, bench the charge and unveil. Oh, nice. We got crit multi and the trigger craft. I would probably take the trigger craft here because having the trigger on your alternating scepter is really nice. It means that you can equip a shield if you want without losing the trigger craft. So I would probably choose this. So there we go. And then I would bench trap throwing speed, or potentially if you need. Come on, 15%. Let's go. There we go. So this is a really good 4.5 mod scepter. So this 29% spell damage is, it's nice to have, not super critical. And I think the total cost at this point, I used prefixes cannot change twice. I spent 3.5 div on the yellow juice. I spent an additional div on cannot roll attack when I rolled the Phys gems, and then I spent about 1 div rolling the +1 all skill gems and splitting it. I want to point out, and I mentioned it briefly earlier, but when you use a veiled chaos orb, you can totally fill the suffixes and make it very difficult to move forward. So when I do that, it's a 1 in 10 chance to roll full suffixes using this method. And it's slightly better than 50% chance to hit one of the unveils that you want. So the odds of you actually filling suffixes are fairly low, but it does happen. And so you have two choices when this happens. The first is you can unveil something generally useful, generically useful. So cast speed is good for like a cold reap build, and then sell this on trade for probably way more than you paid to craft it. The other alternative is to YOLO a null and try to take off a suffix and take the 50-50. At this point in the league, I'd probably YOLO a null because there's not a ton of people playing anymore, but you know, that's up to you. Okay, and to finish our scepter, what we're going to do is Redeemer Slam. Now, there are kind of two ways you can do this, and it sort of depends on your budget. The cheapest way is to just hit it with a Redeemer Orb. You'll get a suffix guaranteed, but if we take a look at the Redeemer suffixes, several of them are useful for our build. There's Hatred Effect, which is the best one you can land. It's a considerable DPS boost to get 40% increased aura effect. In fact, if you look on trade, you'll see Hatred Aura Effect ones are by far the most expensive. The spells double damage, also very good. Cold exposure, also very good. Cast speed, not great for us. Movement speed, also not great because you're not hitting an enemy that your traps are. And this one kind of meh, whatever. So you can either cast or craft Cannot Roll Caster and block the cast speed and double damage mod, which gives you a weighting of 1,000 for Hatred Effect, 1,000 for cold exposure, and you're slightly better than 50% odds to hit something useful because these two are kind of dead. Or you could just YOLO slam it and save the div and still have a chance to land double damage. The odds are slightly less than 50% to get something good without the Cannot Roll Caster, and slightly better than 50% with Cannot Roll Caster. So I'm just going to do it without using Cannot Roll Caster because this is a budget craft. So spells have a tier 2 double damage. That's fantastic. So this is a pretty solid scepter for not a lot of money.